upstairs, but
they help. They help.
So I got gamer ones, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was looking things up online and was like, all right, what do you call it? The gamer ones. I forget what the brand. I was super excited for them. Like they cost a little bit extra, but I'm like, it's worth it. But I didn't realize they have a slight magnification to them. That was a hard word for me today. So when I put them on, it just zooms in a little bit. And really starts to mess me up. It definitely blocks it, but then when I take them off, it messes my whole head up.
These have no magnification, and I only really wear them when I can't mess with the whiteness setting of the things. Most of my apps on my phone I changed to like nighttime mode.
Yep.
So like everything is dark mode or whatever they call it. I haven't figured out how to do that for StreamYard yet. I don't know if it's even an option.
Yeah, well, my computer has that setting, so I do that.
I have it set up for everything else, but it's nice. It's a nice option. Kind of helps me not get headaches.
Well, yeah, that was my thing is, working from home now and being in front of a computer all day. It certainly messes with my eyes when I just, I usually have the chance to get away from my desk for a couple minutes here and there, but when I'm stuck at it for a while, it really messes with my head.
Yeah, it's funny. Like I find that if I'm staring at a screen for a long period of time, like I find myself where I'm not blinking, and then like suddenly you feel like your eyes are just like getting dry and like itchy, and you're like, "What is going on here?"
Yeah.
So, yeah.
John, real quick, what beer did you say we were going to start with?
The penknife.
Okay, I'll go get it set up. I'll be right back.
All right. So, Mike, I'm going to hop on my phone quick and just share this a couple times to give you an idea of how we're going to start things. I believe we should be live.
I think we're live.
Just want to check.
I've got people pinging me, so I'm assuming we're live.
Sweet. So,
we're live.
When my brother starts, he's going to actually hit a record button on his end, and we're going to actually be recording the podcast. That we're going to release tomorrow. So there's going to be a little intro music. I'm going to do like a minute of just blah, 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 stuff like that. We'll go into an introduction of you. And then I think I'm probably just going to go right into talking to you, get to know you a little bit, ask you some of those Trillium questions. And I think at the end, we'll circle back. There's a couple local beer stories and things like that I'd love to talk about and get your reaction on too, if you're into it.
Sure, dude. Sounds great.
All right, so that is muted. Let's get this out here. Share. Share. To the group. Taylor, you look so different with those glasses. I should have worn mine.
Do I look like really intelligent?
A little bit.
Cool. I'll wear them all the time then. And when people ask me, they're like, "Oh, dude, I didn't know you needed glasses." They're like, "Oh, dude, I'm like so much smarter with these things on."
I think they're very popular, and I noticed that
Jackie's got some too. She looks great in them.
Yeah.
I can't find ones that fit my face right. My head's too big.
Me too. It's always a thing with me. I just have such a hard time.
It works with the headphones because you can't see that they don't actually go around my ears.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of look like Professor X.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
Except if he got hit by a bus.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Oh, I got to try my new my light. I'm about to get intense.
Dude, you got a circle light?
Yeah.
What are you, like an IG mod?
For real.
Dude, you're a straight up influencer now.
I can change it.
Ooh, tonal.
It's a bit much.
It's kind of like high beam there.
We're like cooler just for knowing you at this point.
Well, there's a couple things going on. I'm going to start trying to generate some extra content, make some videos for things, and there's all kinds of junk going on. So
we got to plug
Sean.
Huh?
We got to plug the TikTok.
Yeah. might be Brews on TikTok. The whole reason I started is I got jealous because people, I just post pictures of beer all the time, right? On Instagram and whatever. And I really wanted to have some more action. So I'm like, all right, let's get some video. Let's put some effects on it, some background music, and make it slightly more entertaining if possible. So yeah, if you've got a TikTok, or your kids do, make sure they follow us.
We ready? Let's get it cracking.
Yeah, man. Just grab the brewski. Taylor, are you ready?
We're watching.
I'm ready to rock. You ready?
Let's record a podcast.
Okay.
The following is a Just Green production brought to you by the Might Be News Network.
Grab his dick and twist it!
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Might Be Brews, episode 48, podcast where we explore the people, places, and brews of the craft beer world. My name is John. With me, as always, Mr. Steve. How you doing today?
I am pumped. You know why? I got 1,000 shares. 1,000 shares of Blockbuster Video. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. We're set up, man. We are set.
Do it big. Doing it big. We'll see about that one.
That's what I was supposed to do, right? Is that what I was supposed to do?
That's it.
That's it, right?
Just hold on to it.
I will.
Easy street.
I will keep an eye on CNBC for that in the morning. The man behind the board, producer man, my brother Taylor. What's going on, buddy?
What's going on, everybody? Happy Thirsty Thursday / TGIF if you're listening to the podcast. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And joining us today from Trillium Brewing Company out of Massachusetts, Director of Marketing, Mike Dyer. How you doing, Mike?
Thank you, guys. Been awesome. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. Super excited to chat with you. We're going to go ahead and pour our first beer. I don't know, Mike, what you're sipping on. And
I'm playing along. With
Are you?
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
The Essential Penknife American Pale Lager. Now, did I see a few different Essential style? Is that like a line that you have going?
It is. It's actually it's a new series that just came out for us this year, and it's probably if there's any series that kind of talks a lot about the roots of Trillium, this is it. And I'm sure we'll dig deep into this sometime, like after we're done talking about GameStop and Blockbuster shares.
Wait, it was.
But
Oh, did I screw that up?
that was later in the segment, but we'll come back to it, I'm sure. But the cool part about this is, we have a passion for local ingredient, and we use a lot of local ingredient, local grain in the production of our beers. And this whole series was built around using, in this case, with this beer, it's a Pilsner malt from Valley Malt. And I think last year I was just looking at a stat. We use like 500 tons from Valley Malt, and that I might be off a little bit on that number. But then we also use Crystal hops in this beer from 4 Star Farms, another local hop farm to us up here in New England. And so the series, we've done a couple of these, and they've always kind of been rooted in these outdoor essentials. So we've done penknife, we've done torch, we've done hatchet. And the concept all along here has been, we're trying to kind of harken back to that concept of you're in the outdoors. What are these kind of core 10 essential type items that you need? These lagers are all slightly different. They all have kind of a slightly different kind of flavor and hop profile, but the central piece to it is really just using a local ingredient, which is a lot of what we're about. So
Awesome.
Welcome to Penknife.
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
I think this might be the first lager that I've had from Trillium.
We make a lot of lager, and it's one of those styles that I think a lot of people obviously don't think about. They don't go, Trillium, man, they're cranking out the lagers. It's usually more of the hazy IPAs or pastry stouts or things along that line. But our lager program, I know that myself, most of the staff, the brew staff, it's when's the next batch of Pilsner coming out? You know, when's the next essential coming out? Like we drink a lot of lager, and when this guy just came out last week, and it's like, okay, I gotta get my case. I gotta restock the beer fridge, and this will hold me over until Pilsner comes out in a few weeks, and then restock the fridge. It's essential. You need it.
Do you see that coming back a little bit more? I feel like the lagers are coming back into fashion. I called it like 3 years ago, and I feel like it hasn't quite come back all the way yet. But I still feel like there's definitely an uptick in the interest of, at least, of just these styles.
Without a doubt. And I think you can see it as well too in, you know, the number of breweries that are successful now that focus on lager, you know, and I think of breweries like Schilling or Notch. We had the guys from Kent Falls in the brewery today working on another lager collab that's going to be coming out probably in about 8 weeks from now, 6-8 weeks from now, after it's done and had some time to sit in the horizontal tanks. But yeah, I mean, lager is there's a great lager craft bar in Pittsburgh called Lorelei. And I was hanging out with them last February about this time, and their whole thing is lager. And I remember hanging out with Pete, the owner there, and it's kind of a funny story. Like I did a tap takeover early in the evening, came back, and the power went out. The place was packed, and he's like, "Oh, don't worry about it. The taps are still working. We got plenty of lager." And it was just one of those like great craft beer moments. Like we packed tap bars, to all of us sitting there in the dark, you know, using like our iPhones to kind of light things up for, you know, a couple hours drinking lager late night. It was great. So.
That's awesome. That's definitely an awesome experience, I'm sure. So if we don't mind, everybody that's out there watching, do me a favor in the comments, make sure that you say hi, let us know that you're watching. And if you're sipping on something, make sure you let us know what you're drinking. What we always do with new guests is we want to try to get to know your craft beer history. Obviously, being in the industry, you're probably a big craft beer fan also. What was your earliest craft beer experience? You know, maybe that gateway beer that got you into it, that kind of started that passion?
Sure. Great question. So my background, I grew up in the West Coast. I grew up in San Francisco. And so the, you know, kind of the benefit I had, you know, and this was, you know, mid 90s or so when I was approaching legal age and was getting introduced to beer. Like, you know, the common beer that was obviously around was always Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. And I know that's kind of the gateway for so many, and it's kind of a boring answer. But I'd say shortly after that, for me, it was actually Anchor Christmas Ale. And, you know, the regular Anchor Steam was great, but the Anchor Christmas was that beer that I was like, wow, holy smokes, you can actually do a lot with beer. And, you know, it's spicy, it's hoppy, it's, you know, rich, like, and I remember like that beer has stuck with me to this day, as I can't get through a year, certainly can't get through the holidays without like going and tracking down my 6-pack of Anchor Christmas. Like, and it kind of, although the recipe changes every year, it's like that first one, I'm like, yep, I'm home again, you know? And I think from there, I had the benefit of living in Colorado for about 6 years, not too long after that. And same thing, like you're introduced to these different, like at that time, local regional breweries that were growing and doing cool stuff. And obviously people know New Belgium and certainly Fat Tire, which, you know, has gone bananas and gone everywhere. But I remember that was also some of the first times that I tried kind of Belgian style ales, you know, and their black ale, like 1554 and Duvel and some of those. And I'm like, okay, this is kind of starting that exploration for me that I want to try more styles more than just a pale ale or, you know, a Hefeweizen from Pyramid or something like that.
Sure. Yeah, those are fantastic beers. I swear we do get that answer a lot. I feel like the Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, you know, was is a common answer for us that we get from our guests.
It's one of the oldest, so it certainly makes it, and obviously, you know, from a accessibility standpoint, you know, it's everywhere.
Sure.
But I think the cool part about it is that those guys knock it out of the park with quality. And myself and a bunch of guys on our team, we were talking this year about their celebration ale this year, you know, their holiday ale.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of became the running joke for us. It was like, you know, Phil, what are you drinking tonight? Sierra Celebration. Matthew, what are you drinking tonight? Sierra Celebration. And, you know, it was just, everybody kind of wants to find that kind of clean palate, cleansing, reset type beer. And I think for me over the holiday season was like, this is easy drinking and good, you know?
Yeah. Well, tell me about your, how you got into the industry. You know, I'd love to hear about what the director of marketing entails and things like that, what you do with the guys at Trillium. But how did you get into the industry and eventually end up with Trillium?
Sure. So my background has always been in marketing. I have a very, you know, I'll abbreviate this as much as I can, but growing up out on the West Coast, in college, myself and a group of friends started a small software company, and it was based in the outdoor rec industry. And we made mapping software for people to plan hikes and backpacking trips and that kind of stuff. And company kind of grew, and there weren't a lot of us. It was a small team, but we ended up selling the business to National Geographic in July of 2000, and went to work for Nat Geo in their global publishing division, and working on mapping products and video and that kind of stuff, but always on the marketing side. And so a lot of my background is, you know, tech marketing, digital marketing. At that time, kind of the beginning of social media marketing, and but always kind of with this slant of publishing. And that career moved me from San Francisco to Denver, and then eventually out to the East Coast. And I met my wife and ended up moving to Boston after a long distance relationship between Denver and Boston. It was a lot of quality United miles, and moved out to the Boston area. And, you know, craft beer had always been kind of this staple thing. It was part of my career, and I traveled around a lot for work, and I've been to 49 of 50 states. And when I'd be done with work at the end of the day, it was, where's the cool local brewery? Where's the craft beer bar? Where's the, you know, the restaurant that has the good beer list? Because I was always just hunting and trying like what's different. And living out in Boston, we decided we're like, okay, you know, after a couple cold winters, and we have a daughter, and she was about 4, and we're like, enough of this. We're going south. We're going like everybody else. We're gonna go down to Tampa, and we're gonna live in Florida, and we're gonna get our I'm gonna get my sunburn on, and she's gonna get her tan on, but it's gonna be great. And so we went down there for 3 years, and I was working with a local publishing company down there, and I finished up a contract job, and I lived down the street from this independent craft brewer, and I got to know the owners there and got to know the staff there pretty well, and because I was spending a lot of quality time there, and started talking to one of the head brewers there, this guy Doug Clark, and I just said, you know, hey, I'd really be stoked if at some point I could, you know, volunteer. I've always loved craft beer. I don't know much about this. I'm a terrible home brewer. That's not my forte. And he and this other guy, John Rankin, kind of brought me in under their wing and put me on the unpleasant end of a packaging line, and spent a lot of quality time picking and packing 4-packs and loading cases and getting sprayed with beer and sweeping floors and doing all the messy stuff. And I did that for about 6 months, and it gave me a whole new appreciation for the fact that I think a lot of people kind of have this vision of, I'm going to get into craft beer and it's going to be awesome, and I'm going to be finishing a beer and staring at it in the light at the end of every day, and it's very romantic. And then you kind of realize, yeah, this is hard work. It's sweaty work. And I was kind of at a point where I was looking to do something new. I kind of felt like I got just burned out. And Dave Doble, the owner of Tampa Bay Brewing Company, one day I'm down at the end of the Wild Goose, just cleaning stuff up, and he's like, Dyer, he's like, hey, come up here, and go upstairs to the office, and he's like, you know some of this marketing stuff, right? And I'm like, yeah, that's most of my career. And he's like, well, I want to start bouncing some ideas off you. And a couple. It wasn't long after that, and he's like, hey, we want to bring you on to kind of run our marketing, help us rebrand, and kind of bring things together. And so took that job, and I helped Tampa Bay Brewing Company kind of rebrand themselves and kind of ran their sales and marketing team for about another year and a half. And then my wife's job brought us back up to Boston, and I had reached out to JC and Esther at Trillium. I had been a fanboy, like a lot of us are, and I ended up interviewing for a job that I did not get. And then did some more work with Tampa Bay Brewing for about another 9-10 months, and the marketing director position popped up, and I was like, called them up again, put in my resume, and I guess second time's a charm in this case. So here I am.
So how long have you been with them all together now?
It's 14 months. So
okay,
yeah, 14 months. Yeah.
Awesome. That's it's an interesting background. I mean, I'm very curious about that app. I mean, your mapping software. Is that what you would call it?
Yeah. I mean, this is old school. There's CDs.
I was gonna say, I think you said the year 2000 when you sold it to Nat Geo. I mean, that was pretty early on. That's interesting.
Yeah. Well, this was old school boxed software. Like,
right,
you would go to CompU, like you get an REI on the outdoor rec side, but then you can go like the Fry's Electronics or something like that, and be like in a box on a shelf, like old school.
Oh, that's wild. That's so wild. Well, I mean, I guess I think the first thing we should do is talk about this beer a little bit. I'd like to try to break it down and talk about it before we move on. I'm loving it, by the way. It's got an interesting nose. I can't tell exactly.
Yeah, what are you picking up?
I don't know, because I mean, you get like that normal, like usually you can get that. I don't know what you would call it, but the usual nose off of a lager. I don't know if it's usually more salt and hops, but there's something a little.
There's a little spice, just a smidge in there that I'm getting from the smell.
I don't know if I want to call it floral or citrus. It's like something. I don't know.
So this beer was actually brewed at our 4 Point location, 4 Point Brewery, aged on oak fooders, and it's actually a blend, 2 batches, and so you're getting some of that unique character from wood that you wouldn't get if this thing was sitting in clean stainless, right? Mm-hmm. I think talking to JC last weekend about this beer. The thing that we kind of kept coming back to is that it's got kind of a tea-like flavor, like a black tea, or almost like a kind of a Lipton tea. And it's got a little bit of that kind of dry, nice kind of palate cleansing, but it's kind of cool. Like if you think about it from kind of aroma, nose, kind of initial kind of wave of tea in the front, and then you get that very traditional kind of rounding off on the palate of then you're just into lager. It's just nice clean finish, kind of, and it leaves enough for me that I kind of feel like there's a hint of bitterness that makes you want to go back, because you're just like, okay, now my palate's just a little bit dry. I just want to wet it again. And using American Noble hops, you definitely get some of that character that you were talking about, where there is some nice aroma to it. There's some depth to it. It's by no means a watered down beer. I mean, or something that just doesn't have any character or flavor to it.
No, this thing packs flavor for sure. I don't know. It's so funny because when some people tell you that you're tasting this, I'm sure that's exactly what you're going to think, but I do like that tea description because that's what it reminds me of.
I was like stumped. I was like, I can't understand what this taste is. Like, I just know that it's light, crisp, and refreshing. And as soon as you said tea, it was like, that's right on the nose. That's it.
Yeah, I didn't want to come out and say it because you're right. I mean, there's that psychology thing. I can tell you, it tastes like Tabasco sauce. And you're like, oh yeah, I can pick it up.
Oh, that's good.
John tries that with me all the time with chocolate stouts. Oh, this is chocolate stout. I'm like, no, it's not. No,
so roasty.
Mike, I always have to tell people or try to, but Taylor is the not beer guy. He's starting to become one, but he's the producer, the podcast engineer guy. That's more his thing. And Mr. Steve and I are the beer guys.
I'm along for the ride.
He's just there for the ride, but
it's a great ride.
He's being converted little by little.
My glass isn't a lie. It does say I love beer, and I'm past coming around on it. You know what I mean? I do love it. And I feel like it's been a while since we've had a lager on this show. So this is very good.
Something a little different. Yeah. So the cool part, like I said, about this series kind of early on is that each one is different. Each one has a different kind of vibe, flavor, aroma. The one that came out in this series right before this was Torch. And the icon was kind of an old school like flashlight. So Torch meaning like old school, like big diesel, like crazy old school flashlight thing. And yeah, exactly. And that beer, our director of QA and QC, this guy Burke, worked and studied in Germany for a very long period of time, and he is an incredibly particular guy and exceptionally talented. And it's rare that you ever see him like feel satisfied with a product. I mean, I think that's one of the things that we can't strive to is like we're always trying to improve. Like everything is good, but we can always do better. And he came back and he was like, this is a really good lager. And it's like, and Burke is not one to garner a whole lot of like, his eyes kind of lit up a little bit, and I was like, yeah, okay, this had to be good. And it was great. I quickly plowed through a case of that beer and wish I had more.
I believe it. Phil, shout out Phil, good buddy, asking for hops. It looks like on the can it says Crystal hops from 4 Star Farm.
That's correct. That is correct.
Mike, can you speak at all? I mean, I'm sure you know a lot more than us about the history of the company, even though, maybe you weren't around at the beginning, but I'm really curious to know what it was like when Trillium started. How far along was the haze craze? And, what was the mission when they were starting out? And how did they evolve and hit their stride and become, the sought after, beer company that they are today?
Sure. So Esther and JC Tatro are the owners and founders of Trillium. It's two incredibly talented, passionate, driven people. And I think their vision for what they wanted to accomplish with Trillium, even before the first day of opening up, is a huge testament to where we are today because of just their ability to see purpose and where they want to be 5-10 years down the road at any given time has really helped us propel. You got to roll back to 2011, 2012 when they were kind of first putting it as concept, and JC. I don't have the exact dates right, but there was a period of time where he was big into ice cream, and there was a whole lot of home ice cream making, and then that turned into home brewing. And like when he's all in, he's all in. So it went from the ice cream to home brewing beer. Some transition point in there. And when he was had gotten to a point where, you know, he's talking to Esther and about what they wanted to do in life, and both of them had very successful professional careers. And you know, Esther with an MBA from Bentley and had just started a fitness business in Boston, and JC was working for a pharmaceutical company doing kind of sales and project management, and they decided this is not what they want to be doing with their life. And I think one thing that I'd say about JC is very creative, you know, very much like the two of them balance each other really well. Esther is like the driven business person. JC is the creative product, you know, guy. And so they had the vision for Trillium, and back at that point, like there were not very many craft breweries in Massachusetts. The laws weren't very favorable; they were strict, and they identified this small little place. I want to say it was a little under 3,000 square feet in the 4 Point neighborhood of Boston, and that's, you know, just south of the financial district. And they bootstrapped the whole thing together, and they had gotten to the point that they were basically on the edge of, you know, they'd sunk in their life savings and everything else to kind of get the brewery up and going, and we're dealing with delays in the city and everything else for permitting, and we're kind of down to their 11th hour when permitting finally came through. And that little tap room, which is near and dear to my heart, it was my first introduction to Trillium. It's the weird thing about it was they could only sell beer to go.
Mm-hmm.
There was no sampling, there was no drinking, there was no taps, there was no nothing. Like it was kind of like a closet with two doors on either side, and it could fit probably about really on a packed day, maybe 8 to 10 people in a line. And so people would line up on a release day, like around the corner, and you'd get shoveled in and kind of march laterally along the bar and place your order, and they'd load you up, and you'd laterally go out the other door on their side, and that was it. And I used to sit at a hotel about 3 parking lots away, and would sit there on Twitter and wait for them to post like if they're going to open and what was available that day.
Yep.
And then I'd start my trek across the parking lot, and you'd start to see like people coming out of the other buildings in the neighborhood. Like it's like, oh, the message is out. You got to quickly now get across the parking lot and get in line. And so that it was, and yeah, it was. I mean, at that point, this was kind of the early thing. This was, Hetty was out, and so there was that kind of that world of haze that was out there. But Trillium was in that first batch, but not the first by any means. I think where JC really started to develop a unique approach was developing house strain. He was very interested in developing a modern New England farmhouse brewery. It wasn't intended to be a hazy IPA clone brewery. That wasn't like the goal. It was, the concept was always this vision of a brewery that was using local ingredient, that ideally someday in the future that there would be a farm aspect where ingredient could be grown and used in the beer, that it was this full community. And it didn't quite look like that in 2013 when it was a 3,000 square foot, kind of bombed out corner place, with a bunch of, dudes lined up down the street waiting to take home 750s in a box. But the vision was there, and it's cool now looking back on it 8 years later. 8-year anniversary is in March, and the farm is now in place. The locations are now in place, and this series, that we're drinking right now is close to that vision of using local ingredient, creating a local product, that kind of works with local producers. The collab I mentioned early on today that we had the guys from Kent Falls in is the first Trillium beer that used locally grown, used ingredient grown on our farm. We grew dent corn this year down in Connecticut. We brought it up, we milled it on site, and it's into this lager that's now resting comfortably in the tank. So it's cool to kind of see that full transition take place over a relatively short period of time, 8 years. So it's kind of a long way to say things have come a long way since a little corner shop in 2013, and there's a lot of stops along the way since then.
Do you remember a time though when like it just, I'd be curious to know when, you say JC and Esther look at each other like, holy shit, like this is exploding, when they knew that it was as successful as we know it is.
I would say, if JC was here on the show right now, he'd probably say that it's like that happens, frequently. It happens every day. Holy shit, this is happening. Pretty humble dude. I think if you look back historically, like 2014, late 2013, 2014, somewhere in there, the Street Series beers, the next old one we're going to crack into. The original beers were named after the neighborhood streets around. Exactly. So that's Melcher Street. Congress Street was the street that the original brewery was on. And some of these early beer festivals that were taking place in New England, JC brought a batch of Congress Street, double dry hop Congress Street, to the Public House, which is a just really well-known craft beer bar in Boston. And that beer quickly kind of elevated the awareness of Trillium. Like that was one of those like, holy crap, these guys are creating awesome beer here in Boston. This is something special. And that was a pinnacle moment. And then I think if you looked beyond that, as that Street Series kind of built out with Congress Street, 4 Point Pale Ale, those two kind of being the originals that like set the bar for Trillium. There's still the beers that like when we release 4 Point Pale, when we release original Congress Street, they're the ones that, even though comparatively today to some of the crazy stuff that we're putting out there, double dry hopped, triple IPAs, quad IPAs, those type of things. These are the beers that like people come back for because they were the ones that, much like we talked about that gateway beer, this might have been their gateway into something that it was very exploratory for them in craft beer.
Sure.
And I think you look back at that time frame, because then it went from Congress Street to our production brewery in Canton. And that was a game changer. Then they move into cans. The volume increased dramatically. Spring forward ahead a couple more years, we have an opportunity to go back to 4 Point, and we open our 4 Point restaurant and tap room. That's 3 stories and kind of that getting a little bit closer to that New England farmhouse recipe that was laid out early on.
Sure.
Then we have an opportunity to open Fenway. So we open Fenway, which is this super cool, modern, greenhouse-looking taproom brewery in the Fenway district. Then we purchased the farm in North Stonington, Connecticut, where the dent corn just came from that went into the collab today. And now we're looking at opening what we call Forever Home, which is kind of the final evolution. That'll be later this year. We're excited about that.
And what is that? And where is that?
So Forever Home will be in Canton. We actually just posted a first job to post there, which is a executive chef position. But this will be one of the largest kind of destination breweries on the East Coast. And we purchased 2 years ago the old Reebok headquarters, and it's a 28-acre campus, and it'll have all the nice bells and whistles for someone to come plan a visit to.
Man, I love
that'll open the summer.
Canton. That sounds awesome. I haven't made it down to Fenway or to to the 4 Points, because I mean it's just I always just don't want to go into town when I'm going. Sure. I'm usually heading to one of the suburbs or going up to Maine or somewhere further up north. So I try to stay away and loop around and stay outside of Boston, but I'm excited to to hear about the Canton thing. A couple questions I want to pop up on the screen here quick. Our buddy Brett, what are the chances of a Boston Marathon beer? Name suggestion: Boylston Street. I think it'd fit.
It's definitely a fit. The street beers are certainly a clear line for us, right? We've got numerous ones. I'm pretty darn confident that our friends at Boston Beer, Sam Adams, do a Boston Marathon beer, like the official one. So it's not that we couldn't do a tribute beer to the Boston Marathon or something, but they've got like the official one. I can't remember what it's called.
Brett will tell us what it's called. He's run the. I know he's run it at least once, if not a couple.
Right on.
4 or 5 times, maybe.
So we have. I can shamelessly plug it. So we do a 5K every year as part of our philanthropic efforts for Family Reach, which is a national organization that helps families dealing with a cancer diagnosis, like kind of overcome the financial burdens of it. This year we had, like everybody else, had to adjust how we do 5Ks. And so we did a virtual version of it in June and had a little over 1,000 people participate across the country, a few international. Did it again in the fall. It's going to be coming back again this coming June. So folks anywhere, PA, New Jersey, you name it, you can register and run. You get some cool swag out of it. And we do a beer typically every year for that called Running Naked, which is if I remember right, it's a Helles, but a nice crisp Helles lager, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, for sure. And I gotta say, it kind of threw me for a throwback when you were talking about those bombers. When Trillium started, was everything bombers? I mean, I remember when we had our first. When my first Trillium for sure, I remember just hearing about it. The buzz, people were talking about it. I can't remember what year it had. I'm pretty sure it was before we started the beer shares, Steve. And I found out that like my buddy's sister was going to school in Boston and he was going to visit her. And I was like, I don't know if you can do it. I don't know where it is. I don't know how it works, but like find me some Trillium. And he brought me back a Congress Street bottle. And I remember popping it, and I think I shared it with my buddy Joey K. And I remember having that moment, and it's happened a few times, not to knock Trillium at all, but you know, as you evolve and try new things, as you're exploring craft beer, you have a beer and it's like, holy crap, this is the best beer I've had so far. And Congress Street one of them, because I hadn't had anything like it. I'm sure I had, you know, I had Topper and was trying all the crazy hoppy stuff that we were doing around here. You know, probably some Tired Hands was coming up and had a couple of those, and then having this Congress Street was like nothing else, and was such a cool experience. And I remember that thick dark glass bottle.
Yep.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it's funny. We everything was in bottles up until we went to Canton. You know, so that was December of 2015 is when the Canton production brewery opened, and we actually did a batch of Congress Street last fall, and we just thought it would be kind of a cool throwback that we ran. Wasn't a lot. I think we ran maybe 20 or 25 cases in the 750 bottles. You know, just this last fall is kind of a, you know, hey, we're all dealing with a really crappy year. Let's try to remember like good times. And we did that. And we quickly remembered why it's so much better to be in cans now, because carrying around a case of 750s is not a fun or positive experience. Yep. And it reminded me, I saw a post the other day on our Instagram feed that someone had shared of the trunk of his car that probably had 6 or 7 cases of 750s, Trillium 750s, like loaded in there. And like the picture of him is just like covered in sweat because he had obviously been carrying like 2 or 3 at a time down the crappy streets in 4 Point. And yeah, so cans are great.
Yeah. Do you remember I think it like that transition happened during our bottle shares.
It definitely did, because I don't know if you remember. It was your boy that brought the bomber, like it was like a year and a half, 2 years old.
Oh
I
yeah,
remember.
yep.
Yeah, that's who it was.
Yeah, Dumont brought the oldest. Is that a Congress Street?
It might have been a Congress Street.
He brought the oldest bottle. Yeah, he's like, oh, I've been saving it for you, but it was like a year and a half old.
Oof.
But I remember that. Yeah, I remember that transition happening where we were getting bottles at the share, and then all of a sudden it turned to cans. And we were excited.
Yeah.
And then Dumont shows up with the bottle, and we were like, man, they haven't bottled in a long time.
A long time.
How long is this?
At least IPAs. I mean, we obviously still bottle all the time, you know, whether it's stouts or wild ales or those type of things. But the hoppy beers are not going into bottles.
Yep.
And that's the right move.
For sure.
That is. Thank you.
You
Did
talk
you crack number 2 there, John?
Yes, sir. Taylor,
Melcher, right?
Yeah, Melcher.
Yep, got it.
Uh-oh.
You got the cats.
Cats in the shot.
So I don't think it's. I mean, I saw the picture that you guys have on the website for Melcher Street, so I'm pretty sure it's not. But I get a ton of pineapple on the nose, but I think there's mango in the picture.
Let's see. I'm trying to remember what Phil put in that one. It's a blue background.
I definitely get mango. I definitely get grapefruit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the cool part about the Street Series beers, they all use the same base grist, which is awesome. And then the beer themselves change with whatever the profile hop is. You know, so Melcher Street is all Mosaic. This is Mosaic all day long. Like A Street, which is we give my boss Ryan a hard time about since he's a big fan of Amarillo. Is all Amarillo. You know, Congress Street, you know, Galaxy, and you kind of go down the line. And you know, it's interesting too because I think some people forget that, you know, hops are a natural product, and you know, it blows my mind sometimes when people are like, okay, I remember this beer being, you know, more, you know, tropical. I got more papaya last time, or more mango, or whatever else. I mean, I wish that I had the mental memory to remember every beer I've had.
Yeah,
but
right.
you know, things change, right? And you know, it's like some years, certain hops just boom. You know, that hop lot that year, the conditions in the Pacific Northwest or wherever that hop was from were just like ideal. And just like with wine, right? You know, this vintage turned out fantastic because the temperature and everything was perfect that season. And I think that's what you see some years. It's like the Mosaic beers that we're putting out right now are just bright. And, you know, I get the same thing you're talking about. I get pineapple, I get some passion fruit. The aroma on it is just, you know, I get like a grapefruit pithiness, you know, a little bit of that kind of grapefruit, like almost rind, like you're almost kind of peeling it back, you know, kind of that citrus zest. But just a nice rounded flavor in particular. I think the other beer that I've got one in my fridge here. It's drinking great right now. It's one of the ones we shipped to PEA is DDH uppercase, and that's got 3 different hops in it, but the same thing, just almost explosive aroma out of the can, and a lot of those tropical fruit aromas and esters coming through.
Taylor, what do you think?
I love it. I was going to ask you, John, what's my Trillium experience on this show? Have I had Trillium before?
Probably not a lot. I
think we did a stout, but I don't know if we had any IPAs.
Okay.
I feel like we've definitely done.
I think we did an affogato. Is that what it's called?
I feel like usually, for me, my experience with IPAs is that the bitterness just overwhelms everything. And this, to me, the fruit really shines through. The flavors really shine through. It's not overly bitter, and it's still refreshing to me. I don't really find IPAs all that refreshing to my palate. I find them kind of abrasive. But this is like easygoing, very, very easy to drink. Hot day, cold day, whatever. This is a very good, flavorful beer.
Yeah, lots of citrus, a lot of fruit, and probably a low IBU, probably, right?
I smelled it. I was like, this is going to be good. And it didn't let me down at all. It's very, very flavorful.
Yeah.
Let's get into the Pennsylvania shipping. So we always say, like, we must be, I don't know what it is about the Philadelphia market, but we feel like we're the luckiest beer market on the planet because we constantly get incredible distribution. Places that are popular all over the country always end up finding a way to get beer into our market. So we feel very, very lucky about it. Our buddy Brian just opening his first delivery yesterday.
Thank you, Brian.
Lots of deliveries, man. The local social media pages have been putting up pictures of opening up their Trillium boxes. So it's very exciting. What made you guys decide that PA was a good decision? And what's up with the laws?
We made it to 50 minutes and 46 seconds. I was waiting for this one. So let's start with how we got to shipping beer, because it's out of our normal by far. And obviously, I think a lot of breweries, this year I've had to. I hate using the word pivot because I'm so sick of it at this point. But we had to find other ways to sell beer. And for us in March, when we closed our tap rooms and shut down on-site service, originally for us it was how do we continue to get beer to our customers in a safe and efficient way. And so back in March, we launched home delivery, which we kind of affectionately called Trillivery, in the state of Massachusetts. And because we had a fleet of trucks that we were, moving beer back and forth between our locations. We have a great facilities team and a great transport team. And this is actually kind of under my, bailiwick, my team and group of people on the ops and marketing side. We put in some late hours, and we converted our point of sale system into a way to take online orders for home delivery. And so we did that over the course of the summer throughout Massachusetts, and it was great. It not only did it obviously kind of help keep the lights on and pay bills, which is an important thing, but it also enabled us to get beer into new corners of the state that we weren't able to get to before. That someone out in the Berkshires, someone out in Cape Cod, that might be 90 minutes away, was now able to come and get beer or order it and have it delivered. Have that Trillivery truck pull up out front. We started kind of looking at other states. We don't use wholesale distributors. We do not distribute beer. Like, you can't go to a restaurant, we've in Massachusetts and find Trillium draft.
I can think of a place though.
We have like 10.
Okay, yeah. I love this little place in Worcester, Armsby Abbey. I found out about it like 10 years ago, and every chance I get, I slide in there for lunch or dinner when I'm traveling. And it's just the most fun you can have at a place. Like, just because you walk in and they've got Trillium, the Vermont guys are the way up north Vermont guys.
Alchemist. Hill Farmstead.
Hill Farmstead, yeah. Just like 3 Hill Farmsteads on the tap list. Incredible food, really cool little place. But yeah, I was always excited because, I mean, you're right. Like you're saying, you can't get Trillium anywhere pretty much unless you go to Trillium. Yeah.
And you certainly can't get packaged. I mean, we've got this handful, this collection of what I'm just going to call like friends.
Yep.
Like Armsby or Public House or Row 34 that are, friends with JC and Esther that have been there since the beginning. And, we when we have draft, which unfortunately we don't have right now, they would have a line, and they will have a line when we're back open again. So we started exploring, like with people stuck at home, we're used to, normal conditions, which is when we drop beer and we see Pennsylvania license plates, we see New Jersey license plates, we see, New York license plates. And with state by state restrictions set up, travel restrictions and everything else, for us, it became, one, could we logistically do it? Could we do it ourselves without engaging a wholesale distribution partner? Because, the one of our big concerns is always, where does our beer sit?
Yep.
Is it sitting on a truck? Is it sitting in a warehouse? And then where's it going? And we want to remove points of contact. Like, we want somebody to get that same level of freshness that they would get if they drove to Canton.
Yep.
And got a case. We want to drop it in their house. And the downside is the laws only allow for about 12 states across the country allow for direct shipment into the state. Each one of those states has different laws and regulations with how you pay taxes on the beer coming in, how much beer can come in. Some are more lenient than others. Others, like Pennsylvania, have very strict parameters. And, for us, I think wherever we want to go and wherever we set up, PA being the perfect example here, this isn't a 1 month trial and let's just dump a whole bunch of beer in the market and then say, peace out. Well, hope to see you next summer. Like, we want to be able to support this market for the long term, right? And we want to be able to offer product to Pennsylvania customers for the long term. So we basically have two ways of doing it. Follow the law so that we don't get shut down, or not.
Because that's not the rule.
Kind of leave it there.
Or for Massachusetts coming to PA, right? Like, that's anybody shipping in PA is the rule. And what's interesting,
direct to customer. I think the important point is direct to customer.
Sure.
Because I see, I see the same forums that everybody else does, right? And so I see a lot of people will say, like, they'll use Burial as an example. Well, I've got Burial shipping direct to my house. Great. Burial works with a wholesaler, and they work with a wholesaler that is moving beer through them, and as a result, their relationship might be different. Like, just like if we had signed up a wholesaler based in Pennsylvania, we could ship pallets of beer to that wholesaler in Pennsylvania, and then they could move it into their network or whatever else. But we want to go direct to customer, and as a result, the TTB laws are pretty tight.
Okay, because I'm assuming, and I don't know for sure, but I ordered a case from a brewery out of New York, and the case seemed to be shipped directly to me through FedEx, and I think it was FedEx, maybe it was UPS, whatever. But either way, I had no problem ordering a case, and now that you say that, because they also have distribution in the state now, is that what opens and is kind of a loophole, maybe? Or
maybe. I mean, there's certainly ways that there are wholesale partners in some states that have a relationship set up, kind of a network set up, where you could move beer. New York's one of those states where they've got a lot of flexibility to move beer out. They have very little flexibility to move beer in. You can't direct ship to New York. You can't direct ship to New Jersey. You can't direct ship to Connecticut. But we could wholesale beer to New York, and that wholesaler, if they also happen to have a retail license in New York, can then ship from New York to 26 other states. Now, that might be the way that brewery that you're working with is moving around that law. For us, like I said, I mean, we want to make sure that beer, when it leaves Canton and is packed by Keith and his team on Monday, is going directly via the brown trucks to your doorstep, and isn't stopping somewhere along the way.
So to be clear, we can order 3 4-packs per month. I think we can place an order a month, and you're not supposed to order the same beer more than once a year.
Correct.
So I can't get Melcher Street next time. I'll have to try something maybe. So
yeah, and it's not actually an important note. And right now it doesn't matter because we're only shipping 4-packs in the PA at this point, but it's the number of ounces that are actually the important part. The law
192.
is correct. So you can order from us 192 ounces of beer per month, but only 92 of it is 92 or 96. 16 times 6, 96. Only 96 ounces can be of the same brand per year. So I think the part that confuses people, they're like,
Wow.
well, what does that mean? And I'm like, well, we released a little over 250 brands last year.
Mm-hmm.
So
Just pick something
you're
else.
good. I mean, correct. Like if you ordered Melcher Street in January, you cannot order Melcher Street again until January of next year. Could you order DDH Melcher Street? Yes.
Okay.
Could you order Stilling Street? Yes. DDH Stilling. I mean, like the number of brands that we're putting out is ridiculous. So yeah.
So is that stuff going to continue to be available? Are you going to constantly put and refresh new options, new brands?
It already is. It refreshes literally every day. We release new beers, typically 3 to 4 days a week. And sometimes that's 3 or 4 beers. Sometimes that's 5 or 6. I think the thing that we're looking at now and behind the scenes I'm trying to get figured out with our web store is how to start activating some of our bottle offerings. So that would be the stouts, our wild ales, things along that lines. Obviously, it still applies into the same number, like your ounce restrictions and your brand restrictions. But if you want to get your hands on a 750 of an imperial stout next month or a wild ale, like those options will become available.
Dude, that Wild Sinister kid, that was one of the craziest things I've ever had. Like I remember that just being incredibly intense, unique, tons of things going on. A little wild, dark, if I remember, like chocolatey almost a little bit, and some barrel, all kinds of stuff. I just love that series. I think I had 3 or 4 of those.
Yeah, no, and so that's the cool stuff that I think I understand, and believe me, I think if I was living in PA and I was like, okay, I don't get it, Brewery X, I'm ordering 2 cases of, and the stuff's showing up on my doorstep. Why are these guys only shipping me 3 4-packs? Like, I totally get the frustration, and believe me, we heard all about it. But I think it's the some people might be more risk averse than others. I think we're probably one of them. We're going to toe the line on whatever regulation exists for whatever state or whatever commonwealth we go into. We have an accounting team. We have a legal team. We're going to do our reporting. We're going to pay our taxes. And so, I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, just do it.
But yeah, there are other ways, that if you're a brewery that is open to working with wholesalers to move mass quantities of beer to a warehouse and then remove it out from there, sure, there you can. I mean, Sierra Nevada's in every state. They don't have a brewery in every state. They're wholesaling beer to a distributor in every state, and then that distributor is moving the product within their territory.
I would almost think that the limited amount that you can get would almost entice you to keep going back, though, and also to keep trying new things, right? Like, if you think about it, like, because you can only get a couple 4-packs a month, you're not overdoing it on that kind of beer. You can move on to other things. You can go to your regular thing or whatever it may be, but next month I can go back and get more Trillium. You know what I mean? And I think that's actually for some people, it might actually work out better for you that way. I think.
If certainly, I mean, I think the cool part is that knowing our production plan for the rest of the year and knowing what we've got coming out this year. Like, I mean, I can tell you that there isn't a month that you're not going to find some really cool beers on the list. There's really not a week that you're not going to find that. Mm-hmm. And the first couple weeks is indicative of like what our normal flow is. But when you start thinking about like some of our collab beers, some of our once a year type releases that that normally someone would not have access to at all, unless they want to get in the car, or maybe they're able to find a friend to meet them or pick up beers or something like that. I mean, it's pretty cool. I mean, I'm stoked, just the fact that we're able now to reach customers and be able to sit and do shows like this in markets that, yeah, we could have done this conversation 2 months ago, but people have been like, that's great. I'm on my COVID couch and I can't get my beer.
I remember having to do some pretty shameful stuff to get that vitamin C collab.
Oof.
Wasn't easy.
Yeah, you did.
Don't charge.
So, I mean, let's say everything goes back to normal in the next 10, 12 months. Is direct shipment and Trillivery ready to here to stay?
I think direct shipment most likely. I don't want to go out on a limb and say yes, it's going to last forever, because I think we've all gotten burned this year with committing to anything. But I just have nothing left anymore. But I would say that this is for us, hospitality. And we were talking about kind of the differences between Esther and JC, but one of the things that these two share more than anything else, which actually makes it a very cool company to work for, is this commitment and focus on hospitality and customer service. Like,
sure,
we have a customer service team that works 7 days a week covering social. That when somebody has a problem, say their 4-pack got dented in shipment, or they're lost trying to find their way to Canton. Like, we pride ourselves on the fact that we can get you an answer really damn fast, and we'll take care of you. And I think for us, thinking about what UPS meant to us to new markets is the fact that we're now able to provide a level of hospitality, a level of customer service that we couldn't provide easily prior to this. That's meaningful to us.
I feel like I'm seeing more and more breweries expand somehow. And these new spaces and these new buildings and things like that. Is everybody hedging on that when this is over? Like, they are going to need event spaces. They are going to need to do a run. They're going to need to have some kind of themed event and drink great beer at. Is that what everybody's hedging on?
Man, I think there's a whole lot of people in all levels of hospitality that are really hoping that that's the case. I mean, I think we in particular feel very fortunate about the position that we're in, because we made tough decisions, and I want to say it again, it's damn pivot word. We pivoted and, we did the things we needed to do to kind of to keep our vision moving forward. But I feel for the industry as a whole, and just seeing the number of either small breweries or bars or restaurants or big ones that have gotten their shit kicked out of them, over this year. Right. So I hope, I think we all hope that there's this, this awakening day, like when, we all decide it's okay and it's safe, and, we can leave our couch and go visit our favorite places. Right. I mean, I think that's the hope. We are cautiously optimistic.
Sure.
I mean, I think, we're kind of planning towards, if we're back in fall and it starts to feel more like normal, that seems like a more realistic time frame to us. Sure. And I think to more succinctly answer your question, are people making moves as a result of this? I think the ones that have prepared and have, are thinking long term and have a strategy. Yeah, I see quite a few people. Like, figuring out what are they going to do when they reopen. You know, are they using this time to retool their brew houses? Are they using this time to change their retail spaces? Are they expanding? Are they opening new locations or looking into opening new locations? There's a good number of people doing that. But I think it's still a big hedge bet. I mean, it's not as big as Steve and Blockbuster, but I think there's opportunity there.
Okay. All right. So since we have to wrap up the podcast, the last question I'll ask is, what is the biggest thing that you're most excited for in the future of Trillium?
Oh, easy. It's opening this new place. It's when we open Forever Home in early summer. I mean, this is the most exciting thing, I think, is just that culmination of the vision that JC and Esther had back in 2011, 2012 of this true New England farmhouse brewery, and that hope that this summer we're going to have outdoor music concerts again, and we're going to have this massive tap room with a restaurant and a brewery and the wild brewery on site and everything else. Like the experience there is going to be nuts. And I'm excited to have, we moved our offices over there back in December. So it's starting to become a reality. Construction is deep at this point.
Nice.
So it's we're on that, we're now on the downhill slope, and we can see the finish line. And it's going to be huge. It's literally huge, but it's just that's the part where I think this sets in for people that this is a great place to come visit.
So the next time I'm coming up that way, that's where the offices are. I might shoot you a message.
Of course, absolutely. Please do. And hopefully I'm not on my couch.
All right, so Mike, if you're down, we can keep going a little bit here on the live stream. We've got to wrap up the 1 hour podcast.
We're gonna do the toast of the week or no?
Yeah, let's do toast of the week. Toast of the week for me is certainly the undisputed champion, the internet. The internet is undefeated.
Always undefeated.
And when it wants its way, it gets its way and has its way with whatever it wants. This whole thing going down with GameStop, the stock market,
Blockbuster. You said it wrong.
has just been
Here to here.
watch. I've taken a deep dive. I can't get my Robinhood and Webull account set up quick enough to try to get in on some action. We'll see. But yeah, that's my toast of the week, man. The internet just they do what they want.
For the internet.
Good job, internet.
My toast of the week is going out to Mr. Tobias Harris for hitting the game-winning shot against the Lakers.
Wow.
Put your glass up. First place Sixers. Let's go.
I'm also going to go sports related. My the only 5-time MVP winning quarterback in NFL history, the actual GOAT, Peyton Manning, is up for Hall of Fame induction this year. I'm a new ESPN Plus subscriber. I've been catching up on Peyton's places on ESPN Plus.
Nice.
This man is football. Okay. The MVP is a individual accolade, unlike the team accolade of showing up to the Super Bowls and stuff like that. Peyton Manning, toast of the week, first round MVP, Hall of Famer.
Laser rocket arm.
Laser rocket arm throwing ducks. and so far, the only quarterback in history to win 2 Super Bowls with 2 teams. God, I hope Brady doesn't do it. Because then there's no debate. I can't argue with anybody anymore. The MVPs mean nothing, and after that,
I hear you.
Peyton Manning.
Mike, you got anything? It's okay if you
I
don't.
do.
Go ahead.
No, I got it. This is an easy one. I'm going to throw out a huge thank you to our fans in PA that not only for the last, I don't even know how long, but certainly the last 30 to 60 days have been blowing up our social saying, ship us the beer, but then came through when we actually turned it on. So huge shout out to our fans in PA. Really appreciate it.
Well done, Pennsylvania beer fans.
Cheers.
Taylor, give me that music.
Here we go.
Mike, thank you so much for hanging out with us. It was an absolute pleasure. You're a fantastic guest. Keep up the good work. I hope you and Trillium keep everything going, and wish you well. Mr. Steve, Taylor, as always. And everybody that was hanging out with us, please stick around. We will probably crack another beer here on the live stream.
Definitely.
But everybody that is listening on the podcast platforms, thank you for listening, and we will see you next time.
Cheers, people. Thank you.
Anybody need a 90-second bathroom break?
I'm good for now. I gotta get into it with Taylor here for a second. You're not really still believing that Peyton is better than Brady, are you?
As far as individual accolades or team accolades, what are we?
I'm talking about when you say who's the best quarterback of all time. The answer is
Peyton Manning. Obviously, they changed the whole game of football because of his offensive prowess, and he was the first quarterback to be his own offensive coordinator. You know what I was hoping this year, and I've been wrong about Brady. Listen, I've eased up on Brady now that he's not on the Patriots, and I've also eased up on Brady since Peyton retired because it's like, who cares anymore? But like, I always I wanted the Patriots to go to the playoffs this year, and I wanted the Tampa Bay Bucks to just get swamped, and it didn't happen. And here we are. And I'm like, last weekend, I'm glad that the Bucks play and the Packers played first, because I was like, all right, this will determine who I want to win the next game, right? Because like, if Tom Brady's going to the Super Bowl, I want the better of the two teams for sure to go. I don't know if the Chiefs got it, man. I don't know if they can do it, dude. It's gonna be.
They've won 25 of 26 games.
Yeah, dude, it's not looking good. I mean, the guy threw 3 picks and still won the game. So, like, what the hell? I don't know what you can say, what you can do about that.
So Taylor, I've got something for you. So one of the guys who was bouncing on the feed here a little bit is this guy Phil Casella, who's our marketing and content manager. And so we bought the old Reebok headquarters, right? And so they left all this stuff, like massive amounts of stuff,
Really,
including like this giant, like huge Peyton Manning like cutout.
Oh,
I mean, I think it's probably like 6.5 feet tall. Yeah, Phil Casella. So I want that thing out of Phil's office. So we're gonna find a way of packaging this thing up, and we will get it shipped to you. And it can leave.
Dude, I just saw that
Feel like you're still listening.
somebody sold a Tom Brady rookie card for like $500,000 or something. This Peyton Manning card I'm showing you is a rookie card, and I'm curious how much it's going to be worth once he gets first round inducted into the Hall of Fame. That, not that I would sell it right away. This thing is like a prized possession of mine. But
Phil just texted, and he does concur that Peyton is the GOAT. So he's with you. But I'm taking his Peyton out of his office.
Mike, I got to do a couple quick name drops. If you can do this at some point, there's a couple of people I'd like to get you in touch with. You've got a great little, podcasting, beer community groups going on around the state. Our buddy Ryan runs a fantastic community called Fueled by Hops over in the Pittsburgh market. So I think he would be a fantastic person to link up with if you guys wanted to be a guest with them. They do a fantastic job with their group, and also our buddy Chris here runs a group and page called Beer, Bourbon, and Games. They've just got like a rabid following. Great people. But I think both of them would be good people to get in touch with. I think to do some more. I mean, you guys don't need it, but
honestly, it's I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all. I mean, I think there's brand goes a long way, right? And mystique goes a long way. But if you're not staying humble and true to the roots and like getting out and being accessible, then it doesn't last.
Sure.
Right? Like, and so yeah, no, that's great. I mean, you've got my details. If you've got their contact info, I'd be stoked to sit down and drink more beer with them and talk about Peyton Manning.
Do you think shipping affects your festival eligibility in the state? I was talking to a buddy of ours that runs like a huge Pennsylvania festival, like beer festival, usually twice a year, and he kind of was like, I wonder if that affects things, because I don't know if at the moment to participate in a festival you have to have a distribution deal to.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think it would, because most festivals. So for example, we just shipped. So Kenny Gould at Hop Culture is a good friend of mine, and so we're participating in his Valentine's Day Juicy Brews Fest, virtual fest or whatever. And the situation with those is that typically a festival has a relationship set up with a local wholesaler that is signing a temporary distribution agreement for a brand or two brands or three, like whatever you're pouring at the fest or whatever you're sending to the fest. And so like in this case, we registered a brand with his distribution partner and shipped beer in so that they could pick back and ship it and move it out. I was just talking to the guys at Fresh Fest yesterday. And I guess Fresh Fest will be in Pittsburgh near the end of summer or something like that. But same kind of deal. Like it would be, structured through a distribution partner where the beer would come in, and it shouldn't affect, because it's two kind of separate licenses between the direct to ship and coming into a wholesale relationship.
Gotcha. Interesting. So I just cracked my gift receipt. I'm just noticing it's a 10%, so I'm probably going to regret finishing this beer tonight. But somebody pointed out to me, I didn't even take the time to look, that you should actually look at this pretty closely, the label, and look at the things that are on the gift receipt.
This is the fun part of my job.
Do you come up with these things?
It's our group, it's our team. I can't single-handedly, but yes, that is what we do.
Did you guys schedule like a 10 a.m. meeting on a Tuesday, and you sit around and like, all right, what kind of let's jot this on the whiteboard in the office, We
work on branding like honestly 24/7. Like Phil, who just popped up on here, or Leah, who's our graphic designer, or others like Matt Henry, who just showed up there. Like we have a collective of a small group, but it's a powerful group. And these guys are passionate Team Trillium members. And so when we're coming up with a new brand, like gift receipt, I was gonna say it was in November, we started a shared doc. Like what's going to be on this year's gift receipt list.
Yep.
And then, we just started coming up with crap.
Leather candle, 2020 daily affirmation calendar, keyboard, mini vacuum.
The Floby. I like the Floby.
Yeah, Floby Hair Studio, Bluetooth headset with mic, rechargeable battery organizer, airline travel voucher, ab sizer, yoga ball, desk chair, how to homeschool DVD. That's a good one, man. I'm sure a lot of people are. I'm struggling with that one. I'm the parent that gets to work from home now, which is fantastic, but also am the one that is dealing with one of the 2 kids in school. And
tough, dude. Tough.
It is tough. Do
Yeah,
you cookbook? I like that one a lot.
So we went obviously 2020 themed this year on the gift receipt, but that was just it. It's like we last year we had a variety of different things, and so we're like, okay, this year we've got to really settle into all the crap that we've had to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean but by all means, I'd say that's probably the coolest part of my job. It's the part I enjoy the most is production planning and new brand development. I mean, we work very differently than I think a lot of breweries do from a planning standpoint. To the extent that I could tell you what beer is coming out December 6th of next year or this year.
I was gonna ask you about that. I'm in manufacturing. How far out do you guys have your schedule firmed up?
Through the end of the year.
End of the year.
Yeah.
Do you do a rolling like 12 months?
Yeah. So this is, I'd say that we run a full year, and then typically in the fall we start building out the next year ahead, and so that by the time we hit, a little bit before the Christmas holidays, we're planned out for the next year ahead after that. But along that lines, it's not only what beers are we releasing every week, but in many places it's, okay, we're going to do a new collab with this brewery in August. And we know by category what it's going to be. Say it's an IPA. We're going to brew an IPA with a collab brewery in August. But then my team backs that out and says, okay, we need to start brand development in March. What's it going to be called? What's a label going to look like? So that, we can take the time to research it, design it, have it ready so that the day that production is done and they're ready to package, that the labels are on. Yeah.
How do you choose who to collab with? How does that work? We've got a fantastic local brewery that's kind of right up the same alley as you guys, I would think. Fantastic Pennsylvania hazy beers. I mean, I don't know. There's so many fantastic breweries out there nowadays.
The list is on.
Come to fruition, and is there anybody that you guys have been really trying to get, or that you want to get, or I mean, how does that work, really?
I think for us, I mean, JC, when it comes to like picking collab partners, it's really about a right organic fit. Like I'm not going to name names, but there are some breweries that have kind of built their reputation by just like collabing with. All right, I need to do another collab today, because it's going to help me, from that marketing standpoint. I'm going to gain a little bit more awareness because of this brewery. Okay, now I'm going to go pick somebody else. I'm going to gain a little more awareness here. Not to say that isn't a bad strategy, but it's a different strategy than we have. Like we look to try to find breweries that either, one, there's a direct, relationship, and that might be something as simple as like, we do a lot of collabs with Other Half. We do a lot of collabs with The Veil, or Equilibrium. I mean, these are guys we've done stuff with again and again, or Evil Twin,
yep,
or Omnipollo, Monkish. And it's not just because we respect each other as brewers, but that we feel that we can learn from each other in technique, but that there's also a personal connection. Like in most cases, these are situations where, like JC and Esther, know Henry from Monkish, personally, and they go on vacations together. And
yep,
it's that next depth level of like why we collab with them, but that doesn't mean that we're not open to others. It's more about what's the intent or what's the purpose, right? Yeah. And one thing that we get ingrained like day one is what is our why. So Trillium is all about why. Everything we do has purpose, right on down to like your social media post you'll see tomorrow. What was the why? And so when we think about doing a collab, it's like, why would we do the collab? Is it cool because we're innovating a new style? Is it cool because we're working with a new market? Because we love the dudes? Like, what's that fit? And so like that Kent Falls collab I brought back, like Kent Falls is not, it's not, this isn't meant to sound negative, but it's like, they're not monkish, like they're a really highly respected regional brewery, but they're really good at from a concept of working with someone on a local level on a lager. Like it's a perfect fit for that beer. And that's why.
Up their website that that drone shot of their facility, it looks like, is insane.
Yeah, it's gorgeous, and it fits that whole everything.
Taylor, what do you got?
I'm getting ready to leave.
Yeah, you got to work and get up early, and
I got to put this podcast together first. But Mike, it was very nice talking to you tonight. Thank you very much for being on the show. I really appreciate it. And the beer is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
Thanks,
yeah, I got a few thank yous, man. You did a fantastic job, Mike. I mean, if you're okay, I think we can stick around for another 15 or 20, but
I'm good. Yeah.
John, Mr.
Taylor,
fantastic job tonight. Mike, it was great meeting you, man.
Nice glasses.
I'm going to get you a giant Peyton Manning. Your dreams are going to come true.
Dude, that would be the cherry on top of all this.
It'll be the whole studio.
And I'm going to draw a mustache on it first, and then I'll give it to him.
John, I'll be so mad at you, dude. All right, guys. Have a great night.
All right,
All right, buddy.
Hey, thanks to everybody who watched and listened, too.
We got the best people, man.
Oh, they're incredible.
Crazy watching this chat just keep moving.
Yeah, it's solid.
Fantastic group going on here. All right, so I'm gonna ask. Go ahead, later, Taylor. I'm gonna ask So I was gonna ask you a question about Treehouse, right?
Yeah.
And because and Brett just mentioned like a Trillium Treehouse collab would break the internet, and I was gonna ask you like, why hasn't that happened? And then my buddy Sean messaged me and said like, Treehouse doesn't collab with anybody. I think. I don't know if I've ever seen a Treehouse collab. But you guys are always in, for us at least, I don't know what it's like in Massachusetts per se, but us in the Pennsylvania market, when we think about the great New England IPAs, Trillium and Treehouse are always in the conversation and always, for the most part, mentioned in the same breath, or somebody's got this one's better than that one's better than this one. Sure. What would you have to say about like, is there any type of relationship there, or is there, cause I just don't know what to think, because sometimes it seems like maybe there's some kind of unspoken grudge, or maybe I'd like to hope that it's like it is in Pennsylvania, like all of these breweries are just fantastic friends and really try to support each other, even though they may not be doing collabs and doing things in front of the fans and the customers, that there is something in the background where they are helping each other out and are good friends.
It's pretty simple. I mean, you kind of answered it. I mean, Treehouse just doesn't do a lot of collabs. I mean, that's just not their approach to beer. There's no hidden secret agenda. At least it hasn't been. I haven't learned about it. Sure. So I think it's simpler than that. Is like in many cases, it just kind of comes down to what's the why. Once again, like for us, like, I mean, sure, if Treehouse and Trillium got together and did a collab, like, there's a lot of people that say like the 7 gates of hell have opened, and it's gonna be like GameStop, dude. It's just gonna blow up. Yeah. But as far as I understand it, JC and Nate used to hang out. I think it's just the fact that they're both running 2 very large, successful breweries and in their own right, doing their own thing and kind of our own unique directions. It just doesn't it doesn't necessarily fit. You could ask the same question about like, why haven't we done a collab yet with Hill Farmstead? Why haven't we done a collab yet with? I mean, there's a lot of. It's easy to draw the T's together because people think of Treehouse and Trillium from Massachusetts.
Yep.
But there's an ample number of, I think, other brewery applications that you could plop in that, in my mind, are more the head scratcher than Treehouse.
Yeah. It's just, I guess it's just one of those things, like you said, the two T's, they're always brought up together. It seems like
there's a lot of perceived. I don't even know what it is. It's like perceived animosity or perceived like there's like, this daily battle. Like, we get up in the morning going,
right. Yeah.
What's going on today? But it's really not that at all.
There is no known interaction between the two. You just assume they're separate for a reason. Perceived, like you said, who knows? But I gotta say,
two big breweries doing different things, different approach, right? I mean, I think if you look at some of the differences between the way that we approach our business, right? Like, we're pretty open, we're transparent, we're all about like on-site service and hospitality and restaurants and like that whole farm to table experience. And I mean, that's really who we are. Treehouse is taking kind of a different approach, and I'm not saying it's bad, or I'm just saying it's different. Does that mean that we couldn't collab on a beer? No, but they're very successful, in what they're doing. We're successful in what we're doing. I just think it's one of those situations like where we've just kind of gone to our own unique clouds and we're happy floating in the sky next to each other. And yeah,
I'd love to check out what you guys are doing in the city and this new place with, a restaurant. I remember the first time going to Canton and driving down that street, like, there's no way I'm going to the right place. I had never seen a brewery in an industrial park before. It was probably like one of the first ones I had seen, where, you see them in strip malls or maybe just some kind of whatever building. And then when you're going through this industrial park, like, there's no way this is right. And then you see
you're like passing like the county courthouse. And you're like, what the what?
I've probably been to Canton, I don't know, not a lot. I would say almost 10 times. But never, I think it's probably quite a bit for being a PA guy. I'm lucky enough that with my job and even family stuff that I'm constantly going up to the Northeast. But it's always been a good experience there. Like, sometimes I want to say I went up on like a Thursday or Friday before Memorial Day. It was just mobbed, like you got a serious line waiting for takeout, to get beer to go, which isn't crazy, you know what I mean? But it was a lot. And then there's other times where I can scoot through there and be in and out in no time, and leave with 3-4 cases, But
I'd say that's probably more the norm, of our curbside. I mean, I think we've all seen days this year that were not. I mean, they were great days, but they were like insane. Like when we released Headroom last August. I mean, there were periods of time where literally the cars were all the way down to the main street. So you're talking, a mile and a half.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet.
Like that's not good. That's not good for anyone. It's not good for us. It's not good for our neighbors. It's not good for the customers. Like it's just bad. The new experience, I think, is gonna ease a lot of that burden, because that location, as you're pointing out, like, it's been our home. We love it, but it's tucked way the hell at the back of that park. The parking situation back there is not ideal on a really busy, beautiful day.
Yep.
And we've outgrown it. And I think as we've seen with our customer base, like, and with what we want to do, like, we want people to come on site and relax and like enjoy themselves and like really take in the experience and have a beer and, have some food and listen to some music, and then be like, you know what? this is a great day. I'm going to grab my 4-pack or my case or my bottles or whatever they want to get, and don't feel rushed, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the challenge.
Yeah,
Chris is pinging you. He says he wants to ask a question.
Chris, go ahead. You're always welcome.
I said no.
Did you? Go ahead. I've always been in a rush, so like I feel like when I'm going to Canton, I have a specific thing in mind, and in most cases, I'll go right to the bar, order a beer, and then walk around to the
In the corner. Yep.
on the corner, pick out what I'm going to get, use the bathroom because I've been in the car for like 4 hours, and then
Right, you're on your way. You've passed the bathroom. You're in. Yeah.
I fill my cooler with beers. I hit the Wegmans right down the street. You know what I mean? Throw a bunch of ice in there, and get back on 95.
That's a pro maneuver. Yeah. No, that's so your new experience is you'll just go like one exit further.
Okay.
You'll exit and like immediately be in the parking lot. Like it's like straight off the clover loop. Like,
oh, that's cool.
And
right off.
Then you'll have your boat. Yeah.
Oh man.
Yep. So just you don't have to do the whole Wegmans through the industrial park. Like you're like, why am I driving past a place that's like sells wholesale carpet? Like,
right.
In out.
I like Doug. In the future, there will be businesses in a beer park.
That's exactly. Way to go, Doug. Good call. So did Chris ever have his question, or is he just?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm waiting for him.
Yeah, Chris, we're waiting.
I don't know if he's gonna like text me or.
There he is.
Oh, here it is.
Oh, where'd he go?
When you become huge, how do you remain focused on people that got you to where you are when
the Treehouse Trillium? It always comes up. How do you remain focused on the people that got you where you are? All right.
Yeah, great question.
Yeah.
I'd say that this once again has a lot to do with leadership. I've worked at some big companies, like working at National Geographic for 15 years. Like that's a big company, right? And I gotta say that the attention to detail on the employee engagement, training, satisfaction, that whole embodiment of being part of a team is something that JC and Esther and our human resources team take very much to heart. I mean, it's as simple as Esther started this program about 2 years ago called Leaders Labs, and every quarter, sets aside a training program for anyone that's a manager, whether you're a taproom manager or you're marketing director or you're the head of finance, that is focused on kind of improving core skill set or relates to our business. And, those type of things, as well as, recognition and, that level of kind of corporate attention to detail that you wouldn't expect at a brewery. To be quite honest, a lot of breweries just kind of struggle at this. And I think that's a unique element of Trillium that makes it successful long term, is that people that are here want to be here, and people that are part of the team feel like you're a part of the team, and it's pretty special in that place, and I think that's how you recognize the hard work, is you find training and recognition and opportunities for advancement, and you make them feel like they're part of what's going on. And JC and Esther do that extremely well.
And it even sounds like you talking about their vision years ago, that, that's the way to do it, to have a vision and to set forth along that path. And it sounds like they did that.
Yeah, no. And they bring you along the path, right? They're not saying, hey, we're trying to be here. We'll see you 8 years from now. It's okay, we've made it 2 stepping stones down the road, and we need your help. We need you guys to help us get to stepping stone number 3, because that's going to unlock 4, 5, and 6. Like it's the level of communication and engagement. I mean, I think, at least from my seat at the table, is pretty impressive, pretty damn impressive.
I remember years ago a lot of talk about the way that breweries employees were paid, and just the kind of like the whole culture of how employees, when they come into working for a brewery, can sometimes be treated like not like it's a bad thing, but like servers. There's a lot to be done with tips and things like that. Ways to be educational and make more money. And then there seemed to be an industry shift to the more successful breweries treating their employees like like they were long-term people and actual full-time employees, and not so much like part-time or server type staff and things like that. Have you seen any type of culture shift or the way that Trillium, treats its employees, and the way that they handle, it's got to be tough, man. Because I mean, if you're a small, tap room, you probably can't afford all of this, crazy money for your employees, and hope that the business and tips can same like restaurants, right? But when breweries become very successful and they've got such demand and need so much staff, there's got to be, I would assume, just a different way to handle things.
Yeah, I can't speak on how, obviously a new startup brewery is going to, deal with that juggle. I'm lucky in the sense that, when I came in the industry, I was working for a family-owned brewery in Tampa that had been around for 20 years. And so they had a structure in place. And then, what I can speak about, like at Trillium, where we have been around for a while and are, successful in our own right. And, I think probably the right way is stable and growing is probably the right way to describe it.
Sure.
Is, you've got to invest, right? Like, and I know that that's part of the strategic mission is how we invest. And, the fact that, the last, just the other day, and if people can check it out, it's up on our Instagram page. We just released this week our philanthropy plan for the year. Yep. And what our core values are for philanthropy for the year and what our goals are. And, I think as an employee, something like that, it might be more meaningful to some employees than the other. Yep. But I think certainly when you work for a place where you feel like, all right, these guys have a plan tied to a mission, and maybe or may not, I might not agree, and these might not be all of my priorities, but some of them likely are, and that they're going to work to do that over the course of this year, and that I could be part of it. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then certainly too, just that constant reset of, use this small. It's a small, but it was a meaningful example to me. Was I remember getting a phone call from our director of HR in December, and she's like, "Hey, great news! Can you tell the marketing department that everybody gets health and gets life insurance next year?" And I was like, "Great." And I was like, "What do I need to tell them about? Do they have to enroll? Is there a payment? Like, what?" And she's like, "No, the company's covering it. Everybody gets life insurance, short-term disability." I'm like, "That's rad." Yeah, okay. Like, and that's a state. Awesome. And I think it's that attention where, we've got the right people in place, and we've put the attention into how do we ensure to the question that it was Chris that had, like, to be successful, you've got to have the right people on the team to do it. And I think that's something that JC and Esther do particularly well, is like creating that work environment for people to be successful, giving them tools to do it, and rewarding them for their work. And that makes a world of difference. It
Yeah.
makes a world of difference for me. Like that's the stuff I'm like, shit, I love working for these guys because they care.
Unfortunately, I think there's a lot of people out there that see the beer industry and being a brewer as like a strictly like make fantastic liquid and get it out the door as fast as possible. But I think there's a big need for people to concentrate on the experience of it. And I think a lot of people do, and I think they realize that. And I feel that when I go to Canton, because I love talking to the people behind the bar and being like, well, shit, I'm in the mood for, maybe something like this and whatever. And you can have that 60-second conversation with somebody that says, well, we just did this and this is new and you can expect flavors of this and this. Like that experience of having incredible service is probably more important than maybe other parts of the business. And I think it's important for people to, realize that. And like you said, it sounds like you guys are doing a great job. When you're investing in the company, it's not so much just another piece of steel or stainless that, if you're taking care of the employees and the people that create that experience for people, it goes such a long way.
Yeah, no. And and that's the state. It's that balance, right? It's like, it's easy or not easy. I could imagine that if you're in a position where you're trying to move forward and you're looking at where do you put your investment money, right? Is if you're there certainly are plateaus in the craft beer industry. I found like you might be between 0 or 1 and 2,500 barrels, and brewery equipment makes that actually a very efficient size.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you get between like 2,500 and like 10,000, things start to get wonky again. Like you're kind of in this weird in between space of size and everything else. And then you go from 10,000 to like 25,000. Once again, it's like you can be in a space of efficiency, but then if you go beyond that, like I think it's probably like that with a lot of industries, but things kind of ebb and flow along that lines.
It's funny hearing you talk about the behind the business and the setup of things, and it reminds me a lot of being at work in my 9 to 5. And if the company isn't set up from the base, you got nothing. And it sounds like you guys are very well set up. The leadership is pushing things through. They're communicating things through, and that's an easy road to success.
I mean, we can always do better. I mean, we remind ourselves of that every day. Is like, how can I better communicate with my team? How can the ownership better communicate with me so I'm able to communicate with my team or the production team or whatever else? But you're right. It's all about having a plan and doing that unfortunate block and tackling sometimes just to make sure things turn out great. Yeah.
It's funny you were talking about the Tampa stuff. I got to visit Tampa. I was in Tampa in March of 2019, and I got to visit Tampa Bay Brewing, and I was like, "Oh, this is really cool." I was impressed that they had every single style you could think of. Like they just didn't have 15 IPAs on tap and 2 stouts and 1 something else. Like they had a little bit of everything, which I was a big fan of.
Yeah, no, and they're it's I'm not by any means like I look at that experience down there as it taught me a hell of a lot, and I still stay in touch with a lot of those guys. In fact, I was talking to their owner this morning, and it's like it's interesting to see the regional differences that exist between brewing, not brewing, hype, what's not, what are the trends like. And you could probably spend your entire life trying to figure out how all that spaghetti ties together, but it's they're doing good, which is cool.
Mike, if you've got a lot of experience being around breweries and how they got started and things like that, we've got a few friends that are starting they're starting breweries, and one in particular that we're friends with. Their model is kind of let's kind of do like grassroots They got all their stuff figured out as far as licensing and stuff, and they're just trying to release right out the door. They kind of say we're releasing some beers. They seem to sell out of it right away. But what do you have any advice or anything that you could lend to them to in today's market? It's so much different than it was back in, what was it, 2013, when Trillium started. It's a completely different world that we live in. But if you've got your finger on the pulse of the markets and how to get beer in front of people and how to stay relevant, I mean, what kind of advice could you lend to somebody trying to get into the business?
Well, I hate giving advice, because it's like everybody's situation, everybody's market, it's like everything is different.
Variable. Yeah, I don't think anybody's saying like, tell me what stock to buy. I'm going to go buy Blockbuster in the morning.
It's Blockbuster. We've covered this.
I got it.
I think
You're
I
all
would,
welcome.
Steve, I'm going to be thanking you tomorrow at like 3:00.
You should.
I think, speaking from my experience, from more the marketing side, obviously one thing that's happened in the craft beer industry that is unique, right, is how important brand has become to success, right? And I think that if you don't take the time early on to develop what your brand is going to be, like, what are you going to look like? How are you going to present yourself? What is going to be your mission statement? Like, think 12 months out, think 20 releases out, and be like, okay, am I going to name my beers all after my favorite cereal items I find on my grocery store shelves, or am I going to have something that ties to my community, or am I going to have something that is evergreen? I think if you look at the breweries that have kind of transcended their neighborhood and their hyper locality, and those that have like seen growth either on a metro or regional or it are ones that their brand applies more than just outside of their door. And obviously, I mean, the basic piece here that we're all talking about is you have to brew good beer. Sure. And I see, I mean, I see a lot of breweries that end up that they might be really, really good at brewing lagers, or they might be really, really good at brewing imperial stouts. Like, that's what they're really good at. But they find themselves, going, God, I need to brew a Smurf Blue Cocoa Puff lactose sour because the brewery down the street released one last week that was strawberry shortcake colored, and they seem to get a lot of hype. And I think I would just encourage, like, if anyone was getting into this industry right now, like, there's so many people like chasing patterns.
Yeah.
Instead of like trying to define who they're going to be and what they're going to create, and then doing it.
I think that's huge for a company like Trillium to say. I gave there's a local brewery. I don't want to say any names, but I want to say it was like, what was it, like 1 a.m, and we were still talking, and they're really big into, like, they have the best brewer probably. Like, all of our local brewers say, like, that guy's the brewer. Like, he's the best. And they do incredible lagers and pilsners. They just released Schwarz beer today, I think.
Yes.
Incredible stuff. And I go, why if you know that you're so effing good and your brewer's so good, just release a hazy IPA and make a shit ton of money. Like, why don't you do that? I just don't understand how, as a business, you can't follow the trends. And they're like, we do what we do. And I want to be like, but come on, like, don't you see like the easy opportunity there? And it's not important to them. And I feel like that makes them stronger at what they do, because they're just so hyper focused on what they're good at, what they're passionate about. And I think because of that, that's going to, transcend all of the trends and all of the hype, and hopefully end up being, the being like just a fantastic local brewery and a great, local pub.
It certainly helps, right? I mean, I think if they, there's that dividing line with any consumer product, right? Like if they were the best, cask ESB brewer that you've ever been to, the likelihood of them being successful in this marketplace is going to be tough, right? Like you pick something so obscure that you're going to have a hard time convincing anyone to come off the street because you're hanging your hat on being the best cask ESB brewer. Like that's just it, so there's obviously that like dividing line.
That's such a good example. I hate you that you came up with that example before I did.
Everyone loves a cask ESB, but I think there is that part where it's like I just see so many breweries that and unfortunately a lot of my job is looking at beer social. I look at a lot of beer social, and I ingest a lot of like what other breweries are doing and why they're doing it and everything else. And that's a large part of my day. And when you start seeing a brewery that was like, wow, these guys came out of the gate and they had a great program of whatever. They were killing it on hazy IPAs, and they had a strategy and everything else. And now they've gone full hard left, and everything is cereal-based lactose sours.
Yeah.
And they were on a path this way, and now they're going this way. And I go back to why I think Trillium has been successful was there was a plan 2 years before the brewery ever opened. And the plan was to get to here, and we started here, and it's just been marching along that path. Has there been curves and stuff? Of course. I mean, this year was a huge curve, but the plan never went away. And I just think that's where, no matter what you're doing, whether you're opening a brewery or opening a craft beer bar or a really cool like culinary destination or whatever else, dude, come with a plan. Like, and I want to be this 5 years from now and just stick.
Do you have a favorite series from Trillium that they do? Because I mean, I think about Faded Farmer, I think about Daily Serving, the Birds, the Streets. I mean, is there anything in particular? What's the one you guys do that the number that keeps increasing? So usually
the permutations.
Yeah.
So my go-to is of course the Streets. I love the street IPAs. They're great. If I'm not drinking the Streets, I'm usually drinking a lager. And if I'm not drinking a lager, I am increasingly blown away with our Ona beers and our Ephemeral Series Wild Ales. And because everyone has a Magnum of just sitting next door to their chairs. This
That's
is
a big boy.
a Magnum of Bees, which is a wild ale with local honey. And these beers, in my mind, don't get exposed enough in our portfolio. We just got we were working with John Hall at Wine Enthusiast, and he just did a story on our Ona beers, which are wine beer hybrids. And those beers, in my mind, just are so different and so unique, and they hit this unique mark where you're like, I want a beer where I'm sitting down, I'm having a really nice meal, and I want something bright and flavorful and refreshing, and that has some of those vinous wine elements to it.
Yeah.
You know that I mean that's some cool stuff.
I can't remember what year it is.
Brews
I don't know why for some reason I think of Laura when I think of these wine beers, but
Like the dialed in
Yeah.
degrees.
yeah,
Sure. Yeah.
exactly. Like those things are so wild to me. They're fantastic. Every one of them that I've had. I mean, I love red wine, but like even the white wine stuff that you guys have done have all been crazy. It's such a unique take. Like I can't think of anybody else that's doing anything like that.
And this is you roll back to like JC's creativity
Mhm.
cooking in his head. I mean, some of the earliest, and you can still find it if you dig around deep in the internet, you'll find JC's original blogs from when he was starting Trillium,
Okay.
when he was starting recipe development and home brewing, and he talks about going to these wineries in southern Massachusetts where he was doing yeast collection, like local yeast collection, and testing them as strains that eventually like became the house strain for Trillium. And so this whole concept of like wine beer hybrids has been back there in 2012, 2011. And seeing that to this, thank you, Matt.
Is Matt on the clock right now? Are you paying him to
I should be paying him in the chat. He's doing a much better job in chat than I am.
You're right.
Matthew is kick ass. Like he embodies Team Trillium. Like that concept of like, here's what we're trying to do with Ona beers. This is that concept of we're going to take, wine, grapes, musk, blend it in, and the flavor profiles and kind of the unique characteristics that you can get from that blending, and then we're going to throw it in a foeder and we're going to let it sit there, and everything else is insane. Yeah.
How much testing is going on? Because sometimes I think like, all right, to nail a beer that's got like a fantastic red wine, what's the word they always use to
tannins,
tannins, you're getting that leathery red wine, that bitter berry coming out, you know what I mean? And then blending it so well with some kind of beer, is there a lot of testing going on, or does it become a point where there's so much experience that you have an idea and you just execute it, can it, and it goes out?
We don't. I had to kick you guys. My AirPods died for a minute, so no. Like I'd say that one thing that we do probably that we excel at is testing. That even if it's Melcher Street or Congress Street, everything is tested. That we have a rich QA and QC program. We have a highly adept lab on site with every piece of tech that you can imagine. And we have a lab team so that from start to finish, we're not only doing flavor profile and sensory and blind sensory and blending sensory and hop lot testing, and it happens every week. It's not every so often, it's every single week. There's sensory going on everything we release, whether that's a new lager or it's the 100th iteration of Congress Street. And that's where, Burke, who I mentioned earlier, like who leads our lab program, he's the one that he's leading his team going into our barrel warehouse and, managing that inventory of barrels and then bringing, unique barrels to testing and saying, okay, number 469 is exhibiting characteristics of, lots of spirit character. Let's identify the spirit character level, and the barrel next to it, which is from the same lot, is showing less spirit character, but more barnyard funk. Okay, so let's do a blend between those two at 75-25 and see if we come up with something cool.
Yeah.
And, it's that commitment to like constant innovation and quality that where things like the Ona beers, the wild ales, the spontaneous program, we've been brewing spontaneous cool shipped beers for 5 years. We have yet to release a drop.
Oh, wow.
So the Spawn program hasn't even been exhibited to the public yet, but it's coming close. We're getting there.
Sure.
We've been brewing Spawn for almost 5 years now because it's not ready yet.
Okay. That answers the question for sure. I read an article, however long ago it was, talking about Alchemist and, I think Hetty Topper and Vocal Banger, they blend, they'll brew like 3 batches and then blend them as they can, I guess, or something like that to try to like stay up on flavors and making sure that it's consistent as possible. Is there any kind of experience like that happening with you guys in some of your beers, or do you guys just
not particularly with like a particular style, like like a Melcher Street or something? That's not a blended beer, but one thing we had to do this year to kind of freaking pivot was when we shut down draft service at all of our locations.
Yeah.
When we're running our canning line, you end up with beer volume that would normally go in a draft, right? And what we had to start kind of thinking creatively about what we were going to do with high quality, fresh bat. Oh, God, damn you, Mike. Like what we're going to do with some of this, I don't want to say leftover beer, but it literally was that, like leftover beer, because it would normally be going in a draft to be served at any of our locations. And it was, could we come up with some cool IPA blends? Yeah. And, so we started running stuff through the lab, QA and QCing, like, hey, if we did a little of this and a little of that and a little of this, what do we come up with? And so we launched this whole series this summer called Metal Alloy, which was just that. We took our kind of a metal series of beers, started blending them off of 2 or 3 releases of fresh beer. This wasn't like old beer. I mean, this is like a week old beer. And we started creating beers that were like, damn, that's really good. Like that's a really unique expression that we wouldn't have gotten through our normal process.
Was death metal new this year?
Death metal's not new. Death metal's been around for a while.
I feel like that showed up at my house this summer, and I didn't get any.
Death metal is so the whole metal. Like there's death metal, there's speed metal, there's like the metal is a consistent component of our branding. But these metal alloys, the alloy component was that alloy being a blend. That it's a concoction. And the one that we just released like weeks ago was fantastic. And there's, I'm going to reveal it here first. There's another one imminent that the labels are at the printer that should be equally as awesome. And it's, that's really where like the strength of having an on-site lab with lab staff that can bench and do everything else.
So much fun to be like, man, we've got this beer. And like, what if we did this? Like it presents new opportunities, and I think it's interesting that you guys were able to pivot. And, being what can we do new and exciting, with maybe some of the stuff that we have or something that we have and we're brewing something new. And I bet you like normally we wouldn't have a schedule to handle this, but let's do this because we can. And you make something fantastic and new and exciting.
Well, that's cool. I mean, I like I said, I mean, my experience collectively working at craft breweries is pretty darn small compared to a lot of people. And Jesus, full on cat attack. But I think it's a favorite part of my job that Fridays we do bench testing, and that Burke, our QA and QC director, comes in with a lineup, and he's like, here's what we got. These are beers that are close to being packaged. These are beers that were, in barrel or in foeder or in stainless. These are, iterations that we're trying using different ingredient. And here's a layup of 3 different ingredient variants on one beer. And, there's a small group of us that sit down and work through this tasting portfolio and say, this works, this doesn't, try something else here. This is too sweet, that's too, rich, whatever else it might be. But it's that focus on like trying and trying and trying and trying and trying and trying and keep getting better, even with the stuff that we're releasing, that we've released 100 times or 200 times.
Like that's a good move. I need to show up on a Friday. I'm here for Burke's testing.
Yeah, exactly. That'll
okay, here
totally fly.
I got to give a shout out to Jeremy out in Nebraska. The poor guy lives in an area with barely any internet and a terrible beer selection. He does get some decent stuff. I think he sent us some fairy nectar that was pretty good. But
no doubt.
Yeah, that was good stuff. But man, I shipped him some beers recently, some local stuff, some Equilibrium, and I think MC Squared like just completely knocked him off his feet.
That beer is cool.
It's a very cool beer. So he has yet to had Trillium. He said here, we met up at, I know he had, I'm pretty sure, I'm trying to remember that time in particular, but we both work in the same industry, so we end up in different destinations around the country every so often. And I know there was an event in Worcester, at least a couple of times we've met up, and we've gone out to Armsby, and I'm sure we had a couple beers on tap.
Sure.
A couple Edwards probably. Is he always on tap over there?
Yeah, but, I mean, the cool part about it, Alec has done such a good job there. Like, not only are you going to get good regional options, but I mean, that's the type of place you can walk in and they've got, Cantillon available on certain.
Yeah.
It's like the depth is stupid. Like,
yeah, it's crazy. I can't think of anywhere around here that has stuff like that, but crazy. So I guess we definitely got to wrap this up. It's getting late, but I think one of the things that I like to ask from people like you is, not everybody has the ability as a brewery to be able to stay, in the position where you like to sell your beer fresh and people come to you and you can do the direct shipping. You don't have distribution and things like that. But, I mean, how do you handle, well, let's talk about in our market. We had a local experience recently. There's a fantastic brewery that's gotten to be a pretty decent size, Trogs.
Yep.
Trogs Brewing. They've got Nugget Nectar they release every year. They've got Mad Elf. They just do fantastic beers. And at Hershey, Pennsylvania, they do a lot of great stuff. They did a limited release for double Nugget Nectar. It's the first time they've ever done it.
Sounds right.
And they're thinking it's a COVID year. We want to try this. This is always a recipe with fresh hops. Maybe we don't go too crazy. We do a brewery only release and we don't distribute it. We're not going to brew that much of it, and let's see how it goes. Well, I mean, I think it's easy to say it turned into a shit show. I mean, they had to actually put out a release that said, we definitely messed up on this one. We're really sorry. We should have, we didn't realize we were going to have as much demand as we did, as much hype as we did. We should have, kept our resellers and our distribution in mind. That we feel bad for all the distribution people that are getting phone calls like, are you getting this? When's this hitting? When can we come pick this up? And they weren't getting it. They had no idea it was coming around. Yeah. How does a brewery like Trillium handle that hype? And, when you're doing something like the vitamin C collab or there's just a double dry hop version of something that you haven't done before, that a triple IPA that there's people are like, oh, this is that dream beer that we've always wanted. And how do you handle managing releasing that to the public and getting it out there to the people efficiently and not upsetting too many people if possible?
Oof, man, there's so many directions you can take that. That's a great
Sure.
question. I would say, like, leveraging my previous experience, the brewery that I worked for was like 90% wholesale, 10% on site.
Sure.
And the big difference there is, like, when you get into that model, when you get in the model where your beer is everywhere, you know, you can go to the grocery store, you go to the liquor store, you can find your beer.
Yep.
That then trying to get people to come back on site to accept something that's unique and different is tough. Like, and you know, I know Matt. I know of Matt Elf. I don't. You know, I'm not a Trogs expert by any means. I'm not going to claim I am. But I think, you know, when you switch between I'm a wholesale brewery and now I'm a direct on-site brewery, or vice versa, like you're kind of setting yourself for the recipe of disaster, no matter which way you go, right? Like, either people think you can get your product everywhere, or they think you can only get it on site. And so when you try to flip-flop them, you're going to lose no matter how many tweets, Facebook posts, emails. Like, people don't read. So no matter what you say, it's not going to get consumed and, like, digested, right?
Yep.
When we prepare for what we believe are going to be big releases, I think the problem is that, you know, we can't always predict the level of, like, what that means.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know that when we have Headroom Day next August, because it's always happens at the beginning of August, there's going to be a level 11 of hype.
Yep.
But, you know, like Dino at Vitamin C, you know, good friend. He's a neighbor. He's 10 minutes from me down the road here.
Yeah.
Like, we love Dino. Dino loves us. We're good guys. Like, we enjoy each other, and JC and Dino have a great relationship. This was a cool collab we wanted to do. We expected like an 8.
Yeah. And
we got like a 12.
Yep.
And it was a customer service shit show.
Sure.
Like, and so I think the best thing that you can do, right, is if you've got a great beer, like one that you know is the one you really want to showcase, and you want to do the tease, you want to get people fired up and, like, frothing at the mouth this beer, is always prepare for the worst. You know, like, we got flat-footed a couple times this past summer because we were like, it's COVID, like, people are going to stay home. No, they didn't stay home. Like,
yeah.
they found a way of getting there. And if it's not COVID, like, they're going to find a way of getting there. So my advice is, if you've got that beer, that this is the year you've got the collab, you've got the ingredients, you've got everything going for you from a marketing standpoint. You're seeing the traction start to ferment, like, bring in the double staff, because the worst case scenario is you provide an over the top customer service experience. Everybody's going to get a shoulder massage
right
out from the extra staff
at the worst. Yeah.
And the best case scenario is you've got everybody you need there to ensure that it's a smooth, safe, positive experience, and that you're not getting blown up on social with, I've been waiting in my car for 40 minutes and I hate you, like, which also happens.
Sure. So I guess that leads to one more question. Mr. Steve, do you got one?
No, go ahead.
Okay.
I like the route you're going now.
Yeah. So when I think about the teas, I think about the way Treehouse does business. I think about you guys, and then now there's so much more beer out there. There's so much. I don't know if you want to call it competition, but
Sure.
There's fantastic breweries popping up all the time.
Yep.
All the time. And when you're a brewery that releases the beer the way that you do and sells the beer direct to consumer the way you do, what do you do to stay relevant and in demand and keeping that hype up somewhat so that you are relevant, so that you don't become like, they're old news. We need to get the Treehouse, or like nobody gets Night Shift anymore. Like, let's go do this, or is that a conscious decision? Because like when Night Shift hits the shelves everywhere in distribution, are they no longer the in-demand beer that everybody wants? How do you walk that line? I mean, I can't imagine as a brewery when you get to that type of demand and production level, when it would be so easy to think, shit, man, if I could sell so much beer if I opened the floodgates to beer stores and liquor stores right now. I mean, the money turnaround would probably be incredible. However, is there a long game? Is there some kind of game that's played of working that level of demand, supply, hype, distribution, whatever you want to call it? How are you going to keep this up all these years? There's so much competition. I mean, I know that went a lot of different directions, but hopefully
I can see where you're going. I mean, there's different business models for everybody, right? And I think if to oversimplify it, in the beer industry, you either take the most points of distribution model, and how you get there, we'll leave that out of it. Whether that's self-distro in some states or it's working a distribution part or whatever else. So
we had Night Shift on a few months ago. I mean, he said he kind of opened up his own. I think he said he was doing his own distribution.
Yes, so they've got their own distributor. So like their model is clearly they make great beer.
Oh yeah,
and they're going to put it in as many places as possible. So that's like mass points of distribution.
Mm-hmm.
The alternative model, just very starkly. I mean, and we're talking about rainbow fruit flavors here. So like,
yeah, sure.
Pot of gold to pot of gold. So the pot of gold on this side is we're going to keep the absolute minimum number of points of distribution.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, like if you want the goods, you either have to come and get it or buy it directly from us, right? Like, so that's our model. Whereas somebody like on the far opposite side of the spectrum, we'll use Sierra Nevada because they're big and they're a craft brewery and they're independently owned. So you can get Sierra Nevada at 7-Eleven, right? Like you walk in, pale ales on the cooler. Does that mean their best beer, like their rare stuff they release is going to be there? Probably not. But you can get pale ale anywhere. So I think for us, as we think about how do we stay relevant, how do we keep people coming in? Yeah, is kind of twofold. One of them is the completion of JC and Esther's vision, which was we're going to create incredible product and it's going to have a local connection. Yeah. And yeah, we might not connect with a consumer in Florida, or we might not connect with a consumer in Texas. They might believe in our mission and like our product vision, but they may never get the chance to get our product.
Sure.
Versus and we're going to continue to innovate and we're going to come up with new stuff. And then for those that have access to our product, whether it's someone in PA or a couple in Vermont or the people who live down the street from Canton, we have a good formula for how we handle social media and how we handle kind of development of hype and content. And I'm not going to tell you how we do it because that's my secret sauce.
Yeah.
But we spend a lot of time thinking about that and strategizing about that on the weekly and daily basis. When we look at the production release plan for next week, like, we've thought out and mapped out, okay, what gets the A slot, the B slot, the C slot, what goes at what time? Like, you can go on and on about how we metric stuff out. But that, once again, like, I know I keep saying it, but this is the cool part about working for two successful business people that have a passion for doing things right. And, there are times where I'm like, damn it, Esther, do I really need to do another spreadsheet on how we're doing next week's marketing plan?
Yeah.
But the proof is in the pudding. Like, we do the work and we take the time and the effort and the analysis to ensure that when we launch next week's marketing plan starting on Sunday night, that I feel ultimately confident that we'll hit our sales targets by the following Sunday, and then we start over again.
Sure. Well, I mean, that's really cool to hear that, like, there's that much work going into making sure. I mean, obviously the product, the liquid is fantastic, but there's that much work going into planning, marketing, and things like that that makes it successful, because I just can't imagine. I assume there's some point where they have to think to themselves, like, do we do that distribution now? Like, are we at that point? Do we need that to continue growth, and to not need it, and to continue to market the company properly, to grow the way that you have? I mean, it's just it's a fantastic thing to behold and to watch, and to see that it can be done.
Yeah.
And it's executed the right way. I mean, you can be successful without the traditional means of selling beer. You know, I think you guys, the Tees, the Massachusetts people kind of started this new trend. I mean, we see the same thing with Levante. They broke the mold by distributing during the pandemic where they never had before. But, having the demand, delivering incredible product, incredibly fresh, top quality, cans right to the consumer, is a fantastic model, and is now proven time and time again it can be done. But not everybody can keep up with it, with all the competition.
Yeah.
So kudos to you guys for having that marketing team, for having the plan and the vision to execute it, because I just imagine it's not an easy thing to do, to stay relevant, to stay hype, to stay important with all of the other fantastic beer out there. So I think with that note, we got to say, keep up the good work, and we got to wrap it up. I've had a fantastic time, Mike.
It's been fun. I've enjoyed it.
You've been an easy guest, man. I love having guests like you that, not only have like the confidence to talk to a camera and be on air, but also just have plenty of content. And you are completely, craft beer marketing inside and out. So, I mean, I feel like you could talk for another 2-3 hours on this stuff.
Unfortunately, probably yes.
Yeah. We got to wrap things up at some point. We're all, it's a late night. It's a school night. It's a work night. We got to wrap things up. But Mike, thank you, man. I'd love to have you on again.
You got my intel. I'm happy to come back. If you want to shoot shit, give me a shout.
Let's see what's going on. I'll stay in touch with you. Man, fantastic show. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Everybody that was checking in. Chris, Brett, Laura, Fish, Evan, everybody, man. I know I hate doing that because I'm going to leave people out, but
it's always tough. You're doing a good job. Look at this guy.
This guy.
Matt Henry coming in big time with all the help. I appreciate it.
He's on in 2 weeks. He's on.
Yeah.
Get him on.
Yeah, we'll get him on. I did get the UPS notification. Something's coming in the mail tomorrow. So thank you, Mike. I appreciate you. Man, it's been fantastic. The beer is even better. Keep up the good work. Everybody that was, Sean's getting mad. I didn't give him a shout out. Of course, the fam guys.
Hi, Sean. Don't feel left out. There's a lot of love.
All right. Good night, everybody. Thanks again.
Take care. Thanks, guys.
2 weeks.
Appreciate it.
Later.